world. On this episode of This is Game Boy Lite.
Disappointed!
Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of This is a Game Boy Lite with just me, Moelle. So yeah, like always, just one of us doing these episodes. These are like the shorter in-between episodes where we either talk about a game or a certain subject or anything else that comes to mind that is closely or relatively related to Game Boy. So like always, let's first dive a little bit into what I have been playing, which honestly isn't that much since last time. When it comes to non-Game Boy games, first one I played through was SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated on a PS4, that is, because it was for free with PS Plus this month. It was a very okay 3D platformer, in my opinion. I don't know why people absolutely love this game so much. Is it one of the best SpongeBob games I've ever played? Probably, because it's the only one I've ever played. But yeah, I saw videos on the other SpongeBob games, and this is probably actually a really good game for that series. But I'm also not that big of a fan of SpongeBob to begin with, so the charm that it has probably does not reflect that well upon me, because I don't think SpongeBob is that great to begin with. So yeah, it was a fun game. I think I played it for like 15 hours to complete it. It wasn't too much. I didn't have too many issues playing through the game. The only thing I can say is that it's sometimes weird to distinguish background from actual platforms. That makes you die a lot, but otherwise it's a perfectly okay game, and maybe even a good starter 3D platformer for a younger audience. I would assume. Oh yeah, if you like SpongeBob, go check it out. If you like 3D platformers, check it out. Otherwise, stay away from it. I've also, I'm continuing Death Stranding. I did play a few hours of it before, but I had other games lying around, and this game being as long as it is to finish and complete, I played some other games first. I got back into it. Did take me some time to figure out the controls again, because I totally forgot. But it's a perfect game to relax. There's nothing more I can say. It's like super relaxing, except when it needs to be infuriating. If that makes sense, actually. Like, you really get the tension on the moments you need the tension, but they are not always there. Usually it's a very, very chill game, where you just relax, walk around a bit, or drive around a bit later on in the game, build some things. Go from point A to point B to point C, back to A, back to C, back to B, back to A, and so on, depending on how many side things you pick up. But yeah, I've played it for like 3 days, I would say, like a few hours just to relax, and it really helps, and time flies by while you're playing it. So I'm looking forward to playing more of it and to finally actually finish the story and finish the game. I am playing the original version, so not the director's cut. I did hear that the director's cut put some things in that make the game too easy for whatever reason, but it's already an easy game to begin with, so I'm wondering what that even means. I'm not sure what's in the director's cut at all. I think it's a few things with drones and stuff like that that they added, but yeah, it doesn't ruin the overall experience. It just makes it even easier to do so. I did play 2 Game Boy games though, because I wanted to get to I wanted to finish 499 games so I could start off the 500th game after my little break that I'm taking right now, which is of course going to be Pokemon Black 2 in this case, because I always play Pokemon at the 100 game. But I did play 2 very short games, one being Spot the video game. That's like the Othello clone or Go clone or whatever you wanna call it. It's not a platforming game. It's like the board game with the white and black stones or tokens or whatever. This could have taken me a long time because I have absolutely no idea how to play that game strategically, but I won in like 10 minutes, and I'm glad I did because, yeah, those games are fun with multiple people, but playing on your own against the computer is just a crapshoot of RNG, I would say. Either you win or you don't, and luckily I won quickly so I could move on. And I picked another game out of my list that I haven't checked out before, which was the King of Fighters Heat of Battle, also known as King of Fighters 96, I believe, in Japan, which is an amazing fighting game on Game Boy. It's one of those that fall in the same category as like Battle Arena Toshinden or I think it's called Chinese Fighter, Super Chinese Fighter, or Samurai Showdown. They are really, really well programmed fighting games for the Game Boy. It does not even feel like you're playing on a Game Boy because the action is so fast paced. Compared to games like Mortal Kombat 1 and 3 or Street Fighter 2 on Game Boy, or even Primal Rage and Killer Instinct, although Killer Instinct does play fantastically when you compare it to its console counterparts. But yeah, these games are very well programmed, awesome sprite work, a lot of secrets you can unlock. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This one introduces team fighting, which makes you pick up a team of 3 fighters. I don't think you can switch out, at least not that I have found. But when one of your characters falls in battle, gets knocked out, you switch over to the next one. The opponent does get a little bit of health back, but that's it. But the team battle is the fastest way to play this game for sure, because it's only quote-unquote 1 fight against every opponent instead of 2 rounds. But yeah, amazing game. Go check it out. Maybe if you want to pick up the correct team to get a secret ending, look up the list of which combo you have to take, because there are 6 different endings, I believe, if you want to see them. Unless you want to experiment with the team setups yourself. That might take a while because there's a lot of characters, and even 2 or 3 secret characters you can unlock, and 1 secret fight if you don't die on the hardest difficulty of the game. I played it on the medium difficulty. It was perfectly fine. It was super easy, actually, compared to, I think I played the other King of Fighters game. I don't remember. There was one that was a lot harder, at least, but this one is super easy. So yeah, that's what I have been up to. So let's take a quick break before we dive into the topic, basically, of this week's, or this bi-weekly episode, which is about what, in my opinion, are some of the worst final bosses you can encounter while playing these Game Boy games. Again, this is just my opinion. There are, of course, many others, many that I haven't encountered yet, but I will just go over the ones that, remain with me, that were either very disappointing, very hard for no reason, very easy for no reason, or anything else. So it's not only bosses that are like completely too hard to defeat. There are many factors that I put into this small list that I made, and there were also some audience suggestions on our Discord, which I will go over real quickly. Some of them were the same as mine, so I do agree with those. The other ones I don't immediately agree with, but I will go over them as well. So yeah, have fun with this nice song from Battleship on Game Boy. Very boring game, but very cool music. Sadly, you have to hear it for 10 hours. But yeah, be right back. Alright, here we are again. So let's take a look at that small list that I made from some of the worst final bosses I have encountered in the 500 games I've played so far, or 499 basically. So let's start with one that we have discussed on the podcast already, and this is this is of course Lex's favorite game. It's Moelle Mania. So yeah, Moelle Mania, the final boss. We talked about it in our full episode, so if you want to go check that out, it's episode 8. That's 3 years ago that we recorded that episode or something like that. So yeah, the final boss of this game, Jinbei, is, in my opinion, one of the most infuriating bosses that I've ever encountered. So this one goes into the quote-unquote hard category. It's not that the boss itself is that hard, it's just that you do not have time to figure out how to exactly beat him, and to get to him, you also have to go through half of a boss rush just to get back to him. For me, I'll go back to my personal experience I had with it, which got explained during a Moelle Mania episode as well, of course, but I was so tired of the game after so many hours, because it's a puzzle game. It's not meant to be played in a quote-unquote fast-paced, how would you say it, a fast-paced manner, I guess, just trying to complete it to go to the next game. So I had been playing the game for 3 hours already during my last part of the game that I needed to beat, and it wasn't fun to try and do a complete boss rush, even though most bosses in this game are perfectly easy. But then getting stuck on a completely new boss that is so hard to get the pattern down with the amount of health you have available for you was absolutely driving me insane, and I think I had to stop for the day, if I remember correctly, and come back another day and try again, because I got so absolutely mad at that boss. If you would have to fight him all on his own, without having to fight any other bosses before him, I'm sure it's okay. Also, if you have learned the pattern already and know how to beat him perfectly, I'm sure he's okay, but not the first time you encounter him. It's gonna be an absolutely horrible fight. I can tell you that much. Now I can't even remember if he actually has 2 forms or not, because that seems like a thing that would happen, but I don't think he has. Huh. Well, whatever. He still sucks. Anyways, so yeah, again, if you haven't played Moelle Mania yet, great game, absolutely great game, but the final boss absolutely ruined most of the experience for me in the end. Moving on to another game that did the exact same thing as Moelle Mania, albeit a much shorter game, was Bomberman Game Boy. We haven't talked about this game yet. Maybe we have mentioned it slightly before, but Bomberman Game Boy is a really okay Bomberman game. It just falls into the same category as most Bomberman games. I talked a little bit about 3 during the last episode, because I had just finished that one. I think that one is perfect. It has a lot of variety to keep you interested. This Bomberman game is pretty basic. Most of the bosses in this game are easy, although it takes a while to find a way to actually hit them correctly, which can be a little bit frustrating, but it's not that bad. But I made it to the end of the game very quickly. I don't know the exact time anymore. I'm just gonna say an hour and a half or something. So that's for 7 worlds each with a boss fight. The 8th world, however, is just a boss rush, which is perfectly fine, because in Bomberman, when you die, or game over in this case, you just start on the same stage you were on, so that's not really a problem. You don't have to repeat bosses at all. But then you come to the final boss of this game, which is this Aztec god mask basically floating around. So this is your final encounter of this game, and not only do you have a very short time limit to defeat this boss, I think it's 5 minutes, like every rounding in Bomberman, but he has 3 different forms. Each of these forms needs to take 8 hits, I believe, and the second form actually splits up into 2 parts, but I think you only need to hit both of them 4 times or 5 times. But the attacks that this thing does throughout all of his forms are so hard to anticipate or so hard to dodge that it becomes very, very difficult to sit through this entire fight because you have to be fast enough. I'm not the only person that has this particular problem with this boss. Like, most of the people agreed with me on Discord as well that this is like absolutely atrocious, worst design for a boss ever. Even though it looks so easy, it really isn't. I think Granan Hero, who has been on the podcast before, has been the only person who has done it in under 15 minutes, trying to figure it out and beating him, if I remember correctly. I know that he did it very, very fast, even though he hated the boss himself as well. But for most of us that have played Bomberman Game Boy for the very first time and come across this boss, it takes us more than half the game time for the entire game just to beat this boss. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out yet, if you want to experience it yourself, play the entire game. But if you want to, you can easily type in Bomberman Game Boy final boss in YouTube, and you can see the fight. And again, it's not gonna look that bad, but it absolutely is. It's just, yeah, I think that one for me actually is worse than Jinbei, even though Jinbei got me more mad, but due to other circumstances. So yeah, those were the hard ones. I'm gonna see if I'll stick to the hard ones first. Maybe that's a good idea, and then I'll go back to some other things. Yeah, let's go to Mr. Nuts actually for Game Boy. So Mr. Nuts is a game that I bought as a kid, and I always really enjoyed it, but there was only one problem for me, and that is the final boss, the Yeti, I believe he's called. I think it's just a Yeti. The game in itself is not the most easy platformer due to some very weird choices made by Ocean. Sometimes you hit a great game with Ocean. Usually you hit an experience. Let's just call it an experience. But all the bosses in this game are pretty easy to understand. Like they all have a very distinct pattern that you can get used to very quickly, and it's usually not that bad to reach them either. But the good thing about these bosses is you have an entire screen where you can walk around and avoid all the attacks that they throw at you. Let me try to think, what are the bosses again? First is the spider, the witch. Is there an underwater one? I think there's an underwater one inside the house. That's probably the octopus. Then you have... What do you have after that? I know there's the giant. Oh yeah, the giant, the clown, and then you have the Yeti. The problem with the Yeti is that there are platforms you can fall off from. There's one in the middle and one to the right. So you have a hole to the left side of the screen and one in between these other 2 platforms. The Yeti itself is so huge that you can't attack him from the ground up. You have to jump on one of his attacks, I believe, to get on top of his head. Maybe I'm remembering that one wrong. That could be the giant. But anyways, you have to jump on his head to hit him. The problem is he starts at the right side of the screen, so he's on that platform, and he has two attacks that can absolutely destroy you, which are the wind blowing, so he's just start blowing and tries to push you off the edge of the platform, which is very hard to avoid because you have to do a very particular jump while actually being pushed off the platform to get back on the platform, which is already hard to figure out. But he can also jump to the platform you're currently standing on, which makes it even worse because then you have to jump under him because he's so big you cannot jump over him. So yeah, this makes this fight very frustrating, and he also has a very it's not a random pattern at all. It's always the exact same pattern actually that he does, but it's so varied that you tend to forget what is gonna happen, especially because the jumping that he does to the other platform is kind of not synchronized with all of his other attacks, which makes you slip up a lot of times. I mean, slip up in your mind that you're like, oh, he's gonna do this. Oh no, he just jumped on me or he just blew me off the platform. So yeah, compared to the rest of this game, this one is absolutely brutal, sadly. And the problem is, if you game over in Mr. Nuts, you have to start back at the very first stage of the world you were on. And the final world, of course, is a very hard world. So trying to get back to the Yeti with enough lives is definitely a chore to do after a while. Just to explain it a little bit more, you can only take 3 hits yourself, if I remember correctly. So you don't have much room to work with during this fight. And yeah, once he's gone, the game is over, so there's nothing left. So for me, as a kid, this was a very frustrating boss, especially because I liked the rest of the game so much, and I just, as a kid, couldn't figure out the pattern. And yeah, that made me very sad. Speaking of another game that I had as a kid on one of those 101-in-1 cartridges, which will of course be a Japanese only game, is Yu Yu Hakusho Dai Tama Makai no Tobira, which is the third game in the Yu Yu Hakusho Game Boy series, because there's 4 of them, each representing one of the arcs of the anime. So this is about the 3rd arc in the anime, and if you have seen that, you know that the final fight, basically there, will be against Shinobu Sensui. This is a very interesting game, and we still haven't done an episode about it, but I think I want to do a full one on this, together with EBC, and see what he thinks of this game, because I loved this game when I was a kid. I couldn't understand any of it. I don't think there's a translation for it yet, if I remember correctly. I'm not even sure if people are making a translation for this, but this is basically a split between a beat-em-up, a fighter, and a top-down Zelda adventure RPG game. So yeah, it's very distinguished. As a kid, I had no idea what Yu Yu Hakusho was either, to be honest, but I just loved the game, and I could figure out what to do by just walking around and going to the correct place, or stumbling upon it. So yeah, what makes this Sensui so ridiculous is that even if you are fully powered up, in this game you level up basically, even if you are fully powered up and have 4 characters that are fully powered up, he can still absolutely destroy you. Compared to the rest of the game, all the bosses and enemies are very much configured in a way that, oh, I can't beat him now, I'll just gain a level, now I can actually beat him. So it's very well balanced. But this guy, he's not balanced at all. Even if you know what you're doing, you can get absolutely destroyed by him, and there's no way to figure out some kind of cheese strategy to make it easier. And I know this because I have made people speedrun this game, and they also love this game, but they hate Sensui because he's so brutal. So if you ever want to check out this game, be prepared for that. But what makes it even worse is that in order to get back to him after you died, because you don't really game over in this game, you just start back at this at your house basically, and you have to backtrack. He is like the furthest away of any enemy in this game because you have to go through this huge cave that is also a maze. So if you forgot where you went last time, good luck finding your way back. But yeah, you have to. It takes like 5 to 7 minutes just to get back to him, just to try to fight all over again. So yeah, you better come prepared, and even if you are prepared, you might still lose just because Sensui is an absolute asshole. So let's move into another category of these worst final bosses. I only have 2 real examples of the next thing I'm gonna talk about. So let's dive into that one. So let's start with Looney Tunes for Game Boy. Anybody who's ever played Looney Tunes will know that the final fight against Elmer Fudd is a big fuck you. Especially after playing through the rest of the game. So the problem with Elmer Fudd is a few things. First of all, he is so random you have no idea what's happening at any given time. He basically reacts to what you do, but it's so inconsistent that it's hard to figure out. The only way to damage a boss or an enemy in this game is by either using your quote-unquote frisbee that you throw, or you can jump on top of their heads. Throwing the frisbee has the potential of going through the enemy and hitting him again, which means the boss will suddenly vault towards you and you will get hit, even though you didn't want to get hit. And jumping on top of him is very specific because the enemy will bounce back in a direction based upon where you land on top of them. This makes this Elmer Fudd fight already very hard, because he has a huge sprite, you have to land him, he can jump, and he can shoot his shotgun at you, so trying to avoid all of his attacks is already hard enough. But of course it's a final boss, and what happens with most final bosses is that he has 2 phases. So the first phase he still has his hat on, second phase he loses it and you have to jump on his bald head. It's kind of hard to explain just in words how bad this fight can go, so I would suggest looking up a video of it so you can actually see what I'm talking about. But this is like a really fun game. Some of the other bosses are a bit annoying as well, but they're very easy to manage. The entire game is very easy to manage, except maybe for Speedy Gonzalez's speed, but that's a total other discussion. But yeah, the way Elmer Fudd just reacts to your attacks is absolutely atrocious, and a lot of people hate the game because of that. Another thing that comes with it, of course, if you die against Elmer Fudd, you have to replay the entire stage. I think there's only 1 extra life you can pick up during this stage, so the most attempts you can have against him, I think, is 3 tries if you do not die in the rest of the stage. Maybe there's more, maybe I'm misremembering, but you only have a few attempts to do this, and I believe you can only take 3 hits yourself, making this an absolutely ridiculous fight. I don't hate this one so much because I'm usually pretty good at like juggling him, you could say. So I can kind of do it well, but there are times that I play this game where it just doesn't work. So I know that it can be very frustrating to defeat him. But yeah, this is not so much a boss that is hard because he is programmed to be hard. It's more of a mechanics thing from this game that doesn't work that well. Making the fight a lot harder than it should be. And speaking of, there's another boss in the next game I'm gonna be talking about that is hard because they made a mistake for this boss. So I'm gonna be talking about King Trule, which is the last boss in Bonk's Adventure. If you have played any Bonk's Adventure game on TurboGrafx or whatever, and you fought against King Trule, you know you have to land with your downwards head attack, I guess it's called, at a very specific point above his snout, I guess. It's not his nose, it's like the thing between your eyes, basically, but it's very sticking out with King Trule. But for some reason, they programmed the hitbox of this thing to be so bad that at the first time, or the first 20 to 30 times, like it was for me, that you will encounter this boss, you will keep on dying over and over again because you keep hitting the wrong thing. So, yeah, that's an example of a boss that actually isn't that hard, because like his attacks are very easy to avoid and things like that, but just because that hitbox of his face, what I don't even know what to call it, the knot on his face, because it's so damn small, you will keep getting hit because you're landing on his crown or you're landing on the front of his face, and that will damage you. So be prepared for this boss if you ever come across him. At least on the Game Boy version, that is extremely hard to hit. Now, on to some disappointing bosses. So these are bosses that, in my opinion, make the rest of the game seem way better, so it's kinda dumb to end with something that's quote-unquote easy or weird. And the first one I'm going to be talking about is Magical Taruru. We just call it Magical Taruru because it has such a hard name to pronounce. It's Magical Tarurutu-kun. There we go. So yeah, this is a weird game if you haven't played that before. It's a weird platformer slash shoot 'em up slash RPG slash whatever they can throw at you. But this game's last boss, that's what I wanted to say. I don't know why they did this. So you do face off against three other bosses in this game. One is just a normal boss, two are shmup bosses, and then you come across this guy. So this guy is pretty easy, quote unquote. The problem in this game is that you can only take one hit and you die, but he has a very easy pattern. Sometimes you can get stuck somewhere and you will get hit, but overall, it's a pretty easy fight. The only thing that they did weird for this one is that he has an HP bar of 64 hits. Yep, you heard that right, it's 64 hits. Which takes forever, because you can only hit him once, then you have to dodge, and it takes 10 seconds for him to lose his iframes, yada yada yada. It just keeps on going and going. However, there is a random chance, and yes, it is random. There is some mechanic to it, but we haven't figured it out yet. But there is some kind of mechanic where you use your little fairy friend that will transform you into big guy. So suddenly you're 3 times the size as you normally are, and then you only have to hit him like 12 times and he's dead. So no idea why they thought it was a good idea to put some random element to it, but even if that random element makes the fight easier, why would you make the final boss take so many hits compared to the rest of the game where all the bosses are like pretty simple and easy and you don't have to do that much trouble to get to him. So yeah, this is one of the weirder ones for sure, that it doesn't ruin the game for me in any way, but I'm just surprised of the choice they made for no particular reason that I can think of, unless it has something to do with the anime or the manga, but at least in my headcanon, there was no need to make the fight like this. Another game which has a very, very disappointing endgame is a game we really have to do a future episode about. Or did we? No, I don't think we did. I don't think we've done any. Let me check. No, I don't think we have done any Batman game so far. So, but yeah, this is Batman the Animated Series. I know me and EBC have talked about this game in the past before, where we say it's like an incredible game, even though it's incredibly hard. And this is where the final boss actually kind of ruins the rest of it. The final boss fight, of course, it's a Batman game. It's gonna be the Joker, even though you have fought the Joker as the first boss already. But in this case, you fight Joker's contraption, which looks like a clown stick. It's like a pogo stick with a clown head, and it has two hands that throw cards at you. I don't know. It's a very odd boss, but it's also the easiest part of the entire game. Like, the only thing you have to do is dodge right, dodge left, dodge right again, punch. That's all you need to do. The rest of the game is absolutely brutal to get through. Not the first Joker fight, that one is actually pretty disappointing as well. But it just baffles me that such a well-balanced hard game, I would say, suddenly gives you something that is, a complete letdown in the end. Because it's just the easiest thing they can throw at you. Maybe that was their way of saying, like, okay, everybody, you made it through this impossibly to beat platforming game. You made it, here's like a quote-unquote joke fight. But I don't know. I feel like it's hard to say, like, would I be mad if it was a hard fight though, because it's so hard to reach the end anyways. No, I'm gonna stick with my first thought. I feel like compared to the rest of the game, this is just a very, very disappointing fight that not ruins the game at all, because I still think this is the best Batman game ever. A retro Batman game, that is, at least. But yeah, it's just such a disappointment to get such an easy Joker fight. And I guess they took that idea into Arkham Asylum as well, huh? With the final Joker fight, which was super disappointing. Yeah, maybe they sought inspiration from this Game Boy game, who knows. Anyways, moving on to my very last, my personal very last worst final bosses. And this is the final boss in Miracle Adventures of E-Sparks, another game we've talked about a lot in the past, and that I absolutely love. I think it's one of the best hidden gems on Game Boy. Also, good luck trying to find a copy, because nobody has one apparently except for me. But yeah, the final boss in this game is very disappointing, just because he takes so damn long unless you use the strategy that I came up with for the speedrun. So the way this boss works is that it's an entire screen of a boss, and the only place you can hit him is in his mouth when he opens it. So you use your sword to shoot when his mouth is open. The problem with that is he also has two fists in front of him blocking this opening, so you can't really hit it from the ground up. So first you have to destroy these hands, which take a lot of hits. I think it's like 32 hits or something before they get taken out. And then it all becomes a very, very, I think 3 or 4 minute waiting game. Because again, like I said, you can only hit him when he opens his mouth, which he only does after he does a very slow, think 3 or 4 strike lightning attack that like shoots across the screen. You all know how lightning attacks works with bosses. Like, you just have to dodge it. So yeah, you only have like this very, very tiny opportunity to get some damage into him, prolonging this fight forever. For no reason at all, because in the rest of this game, the way you defeat bosses is basically I mean, this is because we speedrun it, of course. You're not gonna be doing this the first time you play this game, but you basically just spam your attack until they die, and it takes like 5 to 6 minutes. Seconds, excuse me, for each boss. So coming across this guy at the end of the game and just having to stand there and wait for this very tiny hitbox to open up, it is super disappointing for sure. And yeah, I wish they made it better, but yeah, there's no way around it, sadly. Again, if you're having troubles with this boss or you're falling asleep, just look up the speedrun of this game. Just look at the way we do it. Maybe it's hard to realize what's happening, but basically you jump into the hand, going into your iframes, and then you take that opportunity to kind of nudge yourself up above his hand, and you only have one chance to do this because you can only take that much damage. But if you land on top of it before he opens his mouth for the very first time, you can just spam your attack and he's dead. That's all there's to it. But yeah, I would definitely suggest trying the normal method first and just seeing how excruciating long it is. So yeah, that's my list of worst final bosses. I'll be jumping into the audience suggestions now as well. So let's take a look at what some of the people on our Discord said about worst bosses and what my thoughts are on it. So first up we have Trip World. So yeah, Trip World, we've talked about this game in the past many times, and you all know how I feel about it. I still think it's just a very well made tech demo, but yeah, I do agree that like the final boss rush in it's Twip World now. Twip World, yes. The final boss rush in Trip World is it's not disappointing. It's just like I haven't done anything this entire game and suddenly you throw 3 enemies at me that are impossible to beat because you have not prepared me for anything like this at all throughout the game. So yeah, I do agree with that, but I think some of the other boss fights are also, or mid-boss fights are also kinda hard, unless you skip them, like the speedrun does. But yeah, I don't know, like for me personally, this doesn't make the list because I think it's a good way to end the game. It's just weird to me that you are not prepared for what is coming at all. And it made me mad the first time I played it for sure, because you have limited continues and then you have to restart the game, and yeah, that kind of sucks. But yeah, it's a good contender for sure. They are fun fights. They are just ridiculously hard for no reason. Yeah, for sure. Another one that came up was the final boss in Kid Dracula, who's called Garamot. Mostly because he's just so standard and boring. All he does is jump and you hit him. Like, that's literally all he does. So yeah, I can definitely see that he's less inspired than the other bosses in Kid Dracula, but to be honest, most of them have the same kind of pattern to them, where they just jump around and you hit them whenever you can. But yeah, maybe. I think in the NES version, Garamot is a little bit better than on the Game Boy, or maybe it's just even the other way around now, and I'm trying to think of it. But yeah, he's not special, at least not design-wise and fight-wise, compared to the rest of the game, which is actually very unique and things like that. So I can see in that way, Garamot can be a little bit disappointing. Another suggestion, this one was by Legs, is actually Shan Yu in Mulan. So the final, the only boss I believe in Mulan, if I remember correctly. Mostly because you have to use a very specific way to kill him. Have we talked about this game yet? I don't remember, but yeah, you have. I'm not gonna spoil it if anybody wants to play Mulan. Don't play Mulan. But yeah, you basically have to have seen the movie to even kinda come up with what you have to do in order to defeat him. So yeah, it's weird because the rest of the game does not explain anything to you where you would have to use this to take care of an enemy, because you can just... Can you take out enemies in this game? Oh man, I'm not a fan of this game at all. Not a fan. Or of the movie, to be honest. No. Mulan is... No. So yeah, yeah, I do agree with this being a very weird and specific boss, but for me, it doesn't ruin the rest of the game for me, because it's already a ruined game to begin with. So let's just say it like that. So the final one came up in our Discord discussion was Muramasa from Maru's Mission. So the final boss of Maru's Mission, because he's like very uninspired as well, and you just basically mash your attack button and he dies. But yeah, I didn't pick this one up in my own list because all the bosses are kind of like that in Maru's Mission. Like, it's really just mashing until they die. The other ones are, again, more distinguished maybe than Muramasa, but yeah, I don't know. Plus, in the Japanese version, he is a little bit more difficult. Or is it the other way around? Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, most of these bosses are just mash and win, so you can take it or leave it, really. So yeah, those were all the final bosses for this episode. If you have any ones you want to share, please do. Just join the Discord. The thread for this episode is still open, so you can always put in some more. So maybe in the future we can do another episode on these. Maybe I will have encountered a lot more worst final bosses by then as well. I'm almost done. Well, almost done. I'm like 250 games away from the end of my challenge, at least. But I'm sure there's plenty more of bad final bosses to be found. So yeah, so that's this list. Let's take a little break with a nice song from Gambara Guma. Ugh, yep, I can talk. With a nice song from Ganbare Goemon, Sararata Ebisu Maru. So enjoy, and I'll be right back. Alright, welcome back everybody. Hope you enjoyed that song from the Izumi region and Feudal Jailhouse from Ganbare Goemon. Cool game. Absolutely check that one out. It's really cool. Anyways, that about wraps up the episode though. Like, we don't have any questions by the audience right now because we had audience suggestions for this episode. So we've already covered those. So as always, I will say my goodbyes by saying that if you have anything to talk to us about, please join our Discord. It's a nice crew of people we have around there. Always nice to talk to everybody. But yeah, if you have any questions for further episodes or general questions, or just want to talk about Game Boy in general or anything else, doesn't always have to be Game Boy, of course, please join our Discord. Of course, you can contact all of us here at This Is Game Boy by going through our socials. So let's start with mine, which it's easy. It's all the same. It's Twitch, it's Twitter, it's YouTube, it's Instagram, all /Moelle, which is MOELLEUH. It's It's where you can find me. You can find my great co-host eBloodyCandy on his Twitch, eBloodyCandy, Twitter, eBloodyCandy, YouTube, probably eBloodyCandy again, and also on Instagram, which I'm not sure is eBloodyCandy. Might actually be his real name on there, so I'm not sure, but he's also on Instagram for sure. You can also find our lovely producer Legs on Twitch as SprintingLegs, on Twitter as SprintingLegs, on YouTube as Legs, and also on her very own project site, which is SprintingLegs.com, where you can, of course, like always, find all the other projects she is working on, like the Game Boy database and the manual database and things like that. So definitely go check that out. Of course, if you just want to click a few pictures on the website to get to all these socials, you can do so by just going to thisisgameboy.com. On this website, you will find 3 other things, actually. If you want to support us by giving us your well-earned money, there's 3 ways to actually do that. We do have a Patreon, which is patreon.com. I can't talk anymore. It's unbelievable. Wow. It's patreon.com/thisisgameboy, which is, of course, is a monthly subscription-based support website. But if you do become a patron, you have access to our episode notes, bloopers, special channels on our Discord server, and also early access to the side project that me and EBC are doing, which is called Hunt Hunters, which is a Let's Play, where we play quote-unquote horror games. It's pretty fun. It's not as scary as you might imagine, but anyways, you get like 1 month's early access whenever we produce some episodes for that. They always come out in series, so once we finish the series, it comes out. Patreon gets it first, and a few weeks later, they will be publicly available. You can also support us through our PayPal, which is paypal.me/thisisgameboy, if you're not into like monthly subscriptions, because we are all getting tired of monthly subscriptions by this point, I'm sure of it. But if you do want to support us through PayPal, let us know what your username is if you are in our Discord as well, so we can give you access to some goodies over there. Because we can't link up Discord with PayPal at all unless they change that, but I don't think they did. So you can definitely go through there. If you do want like something, I can't come up with a name. Why can't I come up with a name? Oh my god, I totally forgot the word. There we go, I came up with the word. I just still have to say it. If you want something physical in return for your support, we actually have a merch store as well. Easy to find. If you just go to thisisgameboy.com, you will find a link, but there's also, if you prefer to, you can type in merch.thisisgameboy.com and it will take you right to it. Currently, we're just selling a shirt, which is available in 3 colors and any size you can imagine. The shirt has our logo on it. There's a green one, there's a light gray one, and there's a dark gray one. And you can also buy a coffee mug or milk mug or whatever you want to use the mug for. You can put pencils in them, or you can grow some plant in it. I don't know what people do with mugs. I don't even own a mug because I'm not a coffee drinker. But you can also find a mug with our logo on it through our store. If you just want to support us without giving us money, there's a very easy way to do that. Just listen to these episodes, talk about them with your friends, let them listen to it as well. Give us some reviews on or ratings on whichever app you are using to actually listen to these episodes. Like, I know we're definitely on Apple. SoundCloud, of course, is our main platform. I think there's like Podtail that's getting used. I've heard that the Google one sucks, so don't use that one. Sorry, Google. Or if you make it better, I'll say that people can use it again. But apparently there's like an issue with sound disappearing for some moments and things like that, so maybe not use that one. But there are plenty of them out there that you can use to listen to us to. So yeah, if you want to support us, just do that and give us a review or a comment or a like or a rating or whatever it is. And don't forget, we also have our live recordings that we do now for the full episodes on our YouTube channel. We still don't have a actual This Is Game Boy URL, so please just use the link on our website to go to our YouTube channel, or just search for This Is Game Boy, so you can see our live episodes there if you are interested in seeing me and EBC on screen. I don't know why you would be, but do it anyways. You can also follow them whenever we record them live, of course, on Retro Gaming Live TV. On Twitch, that is. We always mention it on our Twitter page and on our Discord, so make sure to check those once in a while to see when we are recording these live episodes. Anyways, this is it for me. I can't talk anymore. I am stumbling over my words, I don't know why. So I'm gonna be taking off, and next episode should be Beavis and Butthead, which is the full episode, but I'm looking at our schedule here and I'm not sure we will be able to set a date to record that live in time. So maybe the next episode will actually be a light episode by EBC, and I don't know what that's gonna be yet. So either way, you will be listening to EBC, either with or without me. Play an 8-bit version of With or Without Me as our outro theme. Yes, that is a very good idea. See you all later. On this episode of This Is Game Boy Lite, I put a sound effects link in the notes. Just put that in.